Welcome to the Jiu Jitsu Oracle. I'm Ross. I'm joined today by IBJJF No Gi Black Belt World Champion Tarik Hopstock. Tarik,
Hey
you
there.
must not yet be tired of having that title associated with your name. Like, how does it feel to be introduced as that?
Well, I don't think I will necessarily put it on my Instagram bio or anything yet. It's not really in my nature, to be honest, but it definitely has a nice ring to it. I appreciate it.
Yeah, I appreciate the humble nature that you have there. Um, but I think, like, I wonder if it's kind of, it's a week ago that you won. How do you feel like a week past that achievement, and how's it all settling down for you?
Man, I gotta say, like, it has opened a lot of doors so far. It's already planning seminars in the 2020 into 2026 and competitions, super fights. So a lot of opportunities arise when things like this happen. And I think also it's important to make the most out of it because it's only there for a certain amount of time that you have all of that attention and people want to have you over and all of that. And yeah, just got to take advantage of it. And that's pretty much these last few days has been pretty busy answering messages, starting to plan ahead and negotiating prices and trying to, I guess, earn a little bit more from this sport.
I agree. And part of this chat is going to be about reflecting on the competition and like your journey to the title. But also, I think there's a lot of lessons can be learned by people in jiu-jitsu along the way. And one of those lessons you've just highlighted is you'll get a window in life that you need to take advantage of. So I think like you've got the right attitude is like a window's open for you or a door's opened and like you're trying to maximize like your time here, like kind of like in the spotlight,
Definitely.
by arranging seminars and all that. While we're here, I saw you posted on Instagram. If people want to get you in for a seminar in 2026, what should they do?
Well, they can reach out to me, or you can reach out to my manager, Maggie Left. She's the one who does all the booking and the handling, and it's super nice because she will, make it as affordable as possible through perhaps doing multiple seminars in nearby cities or whichever way it does. And yeah, becomes a good job for me as well.
Good. Is there anything else before we dive into the chat that you want to highlight or give a shout out to? Let's do it early in the pod rather than leaving it to the end.
I mean, like, I'm really grateful. I'm grateful for all the people around me, at Frontline, Maggie, everybody who's been helping me train and compete, and also like coach me. Tommy for Langacker, for example, he came to Vegas just to coach me. As you probably know, he suffered an injury in the Europeans, so he's been dealing with that. And yeah, he's a very valuable friend to me, and he has a very well, we have a very good connection, and so he's a really good guy to hype me up and get me prepared for comps, and also like I think it's pretty nice having someone speak Norwegian in the corner, coaching me, because it makes it like, well, one, it's maybe better because people don't understand us, but also it's more authentic in a sense.
Okay, I think we'll mention Tommy a few times on the pod because you've obviously had a story that involves him. You've faced each other in competition over time. You've trained with each other. Now Tommy's helping you. What I'd like to know from an athlete's perspective at the level you compete at, when you're saying Tommy's in your corner and he's helping you, what are you looking for there? And like when you go away to the worlds and you have someone like Tommy coming along with you, what are you looking for from an athlete's perspective there? What really helps you?
So the thing about Tommy is that he has years and years of experience competing, right? And although I do as well have competed quite a bit, and we know the rules thoroughly, it's always good having a second opinion or someone who's standing on the outside who's able to perceive, the points, the referee, the expressions of the referee, if the referee is like looking like he's about to give you a stalling call, all these cues and information that's going around, which is kind of hard to absorb if you're in the middle of a match. Uh, so having a guy that experience on the side, being able to tell me like, okay, on the next guard pull, you shouldn't pull. I want you to stay on top, like things like that. And then when I receive this information, I agree with it because I immediately understand where he's going with it, and I understand like, okay, from a tactical point, that makes sense. Uh, though if it wasn't for him saying that, I might have just gone with whatever felt natural at that moment. So I think having Tommy by my side, with his experience and you know, uh, yeah, he's been there, he's done that, he's won worlds one time, so it makes it, I guess, also believable that I can do it as well.
So you think it's important for an athlete to find someone they have a connection with, whether it's a coach that comes with them or like a fellow athlete who's maybe not competing, but they can get in the corner. It makes a big difference.
For sure. I think having that connection, having the trust that I know, uh, one, he's good at what he's doing, but also having the trust that his intentions are good and he means the best, and like having that relationship is quite important, because if you have a second of doubt, you're 1 second behind, and that could mean win or disappear in that sense.
So just reflecting on the competition itself, I think like the final in particular, when I'm thinking about your matches, had situations that I think you played very well. You played tactically very well. You did the right thing at the right time. Was there help from Tommy there, or was there years of experience went into that decision making, or a bit of both? And maybe you can talk about a couple of the scenarios that happened in that match that I think were really interesting that put you ahead.
Definitely a bit of both, I would say. My experience, but also Tommy on the outside, telling me how the points are and what I need to be doing at that point. So starting the match, obviously, was put behind a little bit because he got the takedown. I didn't anticipate it. He did it. It was like super clever from Marcelo's side.
He thought you would pull, I guess. Yeah.
Yeah, he sort of pulled himself, but then he shot as was kind of trying to come up as well, and I was like, oh damn, I didn't see that one coming. And so
That's
yeah,
pivotal to him.
yeah,
Yeah.
2-0 to him, and then I guess when I ended up on bottom, I tried already trying to get underneath him and kind of utilize the moment of movement to at least get something going. And that's sort of when I started getting underneath him and started isolating his legs and starting to attack. I went for a couple of heel hook attempts and so on. I think I almost, yeah, I got a little bit of a bite on his leg. Not much, but again, didn't give me any advantages or anything like that. Eventually, I started setting up my false sweep on one side, and I know I'm down on points, so I'm not only looking for the leg locks, but I'm also looking for just like off balancement. So as soon as I saw him kind of move away and letting himself fall down, I started chasing the top position. And that's kind of when we ended up in that single leg situation scenario where if we went out of bounds, we would have to disconnect and then we would reset, and then likely I wouldn't get anything from it. So instead of just trying to chase the takedown, I chose to sit back down with the connection I had to his leg and start chasing. Like I guess I ended up in a calf slicing situation, but I actually wanted more like a back take or a crab ride. And that also set up into like a toe hold, and the toe hold was pretty nice because I saw we were at the edge of the mat. And so for those of you who don't know the rules, is that if you take a submission out of bounds, um, with its natural kind of escape going out of bounds, then you receive 2 points for the submission attempt. And so knowing that, I hit the toe hold, and in a way that we would roll straight out of bounds towards the side where who was originally almost escaping from the takedown. So then you could say we evened out the score, and then I knew then, okay, at least now we're safe, but I still have to make something happen. And from there on, it was more like, okay, how can I set up my attacks. And then actually Marcelo was on bottom, so he started getting greedy on shooting in with his head. And so I managed to lock a Darce in that scenario. And at first, I think he kind of underestimated the lock I had with my arms. So he didn't pull much back. He just kept pushing forward. And as I kept adjusting the Darce there, it got tighter and tighter. And eventually he had to kind of concede his side control, and which gave me again 3 points from there on. And once you're up on by 3 points, it's like even though he sweeps me back, I'm still up on points there. And by that time, I kind of knew the time was running out, so I started locking him up, going into like a reverse close guard, and yeah, from there I knew like I can hold this, out through the through the time.
How much effort did you put into finishing the Darce? How much were you thinking about effort going into your arms and the grips, and how much effort you put into the finish relative to how long's left in the match?
Yeah, no, I definitely squeezed. I squeezed really hard there, but Marcelo was doing a very smart thing because he was opening his frame or opening his arm. And if you watch the clip, he's kind of self-framing. So he's grabbing his own thigh with his hand. And that creates just enough space to breathe a little bit, you know? And as much as I can fight to kind of remove the frames and collapse his arm again, I chose to score the points instead. So then I kind of pushed him over, got him flat, came up on top instead. And once I had the points, I actually wanted to go back into trying to finish it, the Darce, but I didn't have the squeeze. I didn't feel like I had the energy to keep or to go through with it. So I then decided to try to circle to the back instead. So definitely there's a time and situation where you would have to make that decision instead of just burning out your arms completely.
At what moment do you know you're winning? Like, at what moment do you
Definitely.
think, yeah, this is it? Like, if in reverse close guard, if I can just see out 30 seconds, I'll get there. Or is it right at the end it happens? Like, when was that moment where you thought, this is happening, I'm going to win this?
I think it was the last 10, 20 seconds. I locked my legs around his back, and I could feel Marcelo just giving up. Like he was like physically frustrated. Just I'm not getting out of here. I'm not able to score
He
anything.
was
How
like
am I gonna?
looking back
Exactly,
here, trying to find your feet. And yeah,
exactly. And then I knew, okay, I'm taking this home right now.
yeah. It seemed to sink in when the ref grabbed your wrist.
Oh,
Before you
for
lifted
sure.
your arm, I think you went to your knees. At that point,
Oh
it
yeah,
really sunk in.
man. Like I at that point, I guess I'm always wondering if they will make something. You can never really know for sure until the
Yeah.
refs, takes his hand off his ear. And I guess I'm kind of scared that he will make some call where, okay, that wasn't points or this wasn't that, and then you end up losing it anyways.
Can I ask about that? Because I find the whole, like, let's call it VAR, like in soccer, football, situation in jiu-jitsu, really, whether it's IBJJF or ADCC, it must be difficult for an athlete because you don't actually know what's happening. And it's not like the match is stopped and then they go to the screen. It's like the ref's just standing and something's happening and you're thinking, what is happening? you
It's
know?
yeah, it's good and bad in a sense, right? Because you could say they probably make better calls now, especially like certain details where was there a connection before the garter pull, or was that points, was it not points? Like in my semifinals, I was really happy that the VAR was there because that actually saved me from losing that match. But at the same time, as an athlete, let's say you go into a match 10 seconds in, you do a guard pull, and even like you could be chasing, going for like a guard, and the other guy is almost passing, and then suddenly he says paro, and then he's like, yeah, we're not certain about the guard pull, so you guys just have to chill for like 30 seconds now, while I'm talking to these guys, whether or not you guys had a connection on the guard pull. And it kills the momentum a little bit. Like you went in, you were ready, you were setting up things, and then suddenly it's just like stop. Hey, oh, by the way, that was no connection, so both of you have to stand up again and then reset. And you lose a lot of time. Like if you think about it, because in the end you use maybe 20 seconds on nothing, that could have eventually maybe set up something. And then yeah, I think the VAR is a little bit tough. Well, certain things are really nice, but in other ways it kills the momentum a lot.
Yeah, you want the right decision. It just, I find in jiu-jitsu, it's different to like NFL where you have like stop, start, and in those gaps, they can look at a screen. I would find it difficult ADCC, IBJJF when there's a sort of consultation happening and you kind of know that it's happening. It might even be like happening as you're still competing and you're like, what's going on? So I think there's still a little bit to get worked on with that.
For
But I just
sure.
wonder from an athlete how you deal with it.
What's very frustrating is perhaps the decision making. So when you see the points as they are, you will make a certain decision, right? Because you're like, okay, I'm leading, so okay, I will pull guard from here, or whatever. And if it turns out that the points are incorrect and things get pulled away, but you're still like you still made that decision, you're still on bottom because you chose to pull guard because you thought you were up on points. Now suddenly you're in a inferior situation where you're not leading anymore, and so I feel like it makes the decision making a lot harder. And so sometimes it's like it's almost better uh not to look at the score and try to make the decision through the score, but rather only like follow the solid points and make sure that okay, I'm here. Okay, ref gave me points. There's no doubt about it. He's not gonna take them away. Okay, here we go. Now I can start going something or going forward. So it makes it a little bit more complex for sure.
Yeah, I just wonder with IBJJF as well. At the moment the ref grabs your wrist and is a way to lift it, you think, oh, that's great. It's not even like I'm going to get a penalty for a celebration that went over the top at the end of the match or something like that. Like these things always exist, like until the referee raises your hand, it's always kind of like still in the balance a little bit. Like, is there something I've done?
There's always a chance. There's always a chance there. Of course, I still believe like IBJJF is one of the most complete rule sets that we have, and they have always showed sign that they're trying to improve and they're trying to evolve the sport, and in that sense, I'm very supportive of it. Whereas perhaps ADCC, I feel is more full of gray areas. There's a lot of interpretation. There's a lot of up to the referee, and it makes it even harder as an athlete to understand what we're actually doing.
Yeah. Um, just on this event as well, you mentioned going for the toe hold. You mentioned attempting to set up your false reap. The leg lock game and everything that goes around about it. It seems that European grapplers like yourself are like really at the cutting edge of that. And I think a post from one of the Mendez brothers after talking about what they saw in World No Gi from Europeans, from the Brazilians, from the Americans, and like how different areas are like strengths of different continents. Um, do you think that development of the game, you see it with Pavel Yavorsky as well, utilizing it, is that added a real string to your bow, as it were? Has that been one of the differences in going from quarterfinals to winning a final? Especially when you stack up your game against someone coming from like a different area of the world where they play that side of it slightly differently.
I I think well definitely I picked it up from Pavel. Well I guess I kind of played around with Fall Street before I trained with Pavel, but I didn't know the details that he does. And then after training with Pavel and he showed me how he sets up his Fall Street and what makes it a strong position, then I started using it more and more. And it's not something I've been practicing deliberately towards this competition, but it's something I saw a lot of the guys didn't know how to handle, and they also kind of let me set it up quite easily. And so, coming from, I guess, I like going shin to shin. I like attacking the forearm. And they know that I like these things because I felt like people came into my matches prepared for my you could say my original type of style and game. And so definitely going with the false reap was a great addition because it's one of the moves that I haven't been using too much before. And suddenly it just clicked really nicely with their reactions. So, but I think like if you put Pavel on the front of that like false reap kind of thing, definitely now there's a huge movement of false reaping in the European scene. And he's definitely the biggest inspiration there. But I also I want to give him credit for like a high body lock. High body lock is also something he's been doing that's super super effective and a lot of fun to use.
Yeah. Now, Pavel and Mateus, they seem to be innovators and creative and come up with games that others pick up on and start to emulate. And you yourself have had a bit of that over time. Um, where does that come from? Why do you think you have been able to like evolve and add new elements to the game, and maybe like Pavel and that are able to do it as well?
I think so it's definitely multiple factors here, but one of them is that we Europeans were forced to kind of get or take it like be responsible about our own development and evolution in the sport, right? Because we're stranded here. We're like I'm, I have training partners. It's not that, but the level is not Atos. It's not AOJ. It's not like we have scarce resources of jiu-jitsu, you know? And obviously we live in a time and age where a lot of the things is you can find them on the internet, you can find instructionals, and we take advantage of that. We try to, you know, as sponges just take all the information we can get, but at the same time we're always trying to develop things and stay ahead of the curve in a sense. We always we stay original and we try to find our own solutions to our problems and so on. And I think that comes from many years of just training like we do in an environment where, well, we don't have all the resources and we don't have the luxury. Uh, at the same time, it takes a certain individual. I think not everybody who comes up in Europe is going to be innovators, but I think certain individuals who are very curious and very willing to you know almost like force yourself to find out what the solution to the problem is, because it's very easy to just put it on the shelf and say this doesn't work. There's no point in trying this inside camping stuff. But rather, I feel like the same thing that I meet everybody who comes from the European scene and who are you can consider innovators. They force themselves into these positions. They spend a lot of time there. They look at the different reactions, and they will try different ways of handling it. So I think that's yeah the individual and perhaps the environment a little bit as well coming up.
When you train and you're trying to innovate, how how do you go about that process? Because like you said, there are great elite competitors in Europe, and they're all kind of like at their probably individual gyms. Maybe you get one at a gym, maybe there's a gym with two, right? But it's not like Atos where there's like a whole squad. So relative to your training partners, if you're an elite athlete, like you're playing jiu-jitsu at full potential, you're able to play differently, right? To what they're capable of. But how does like how much of your training involves like that curious mind taking over and being like, I want to play in these areas, I want to find out everything about this area, relative to like how much of your training would be like, okay, like I want to like sharpen my sword as much as possible here and just make sure that my A game's at peak going into a competition.
That's the thing, right? And I see this with everybody else as well. Like, I like hard rounds. I like having, uh, s- you know, training partners who are at a similar level that I can go with my A game and they can respond with their A game, and it's a tough round, and those are nice, but you don't really develop much beyond your A game in those type of sparring scenarios. Whereas I feel like the way I train with most of the guys at my gym is that I can force upon them certain scenarios or certain games styles or techniques that I want to be working on, and uh, because their level isn't so high, I can also handle, the timing, the pressure, the things in a way that okay, I'm able to play my B game here, even though I'm not really good at it or great at it, but this is gonna help me develop it, and then one day it will become a part of my A game. And so I think spending more time with people less skilled will also help you develop a lot more. Of course, you have to be smart about it. You have to know what you're looking for, what you want to be developing. There are days that I just walk in and I'm just there for rounds. I just want to train. I just want to get a roll in, sweat. That's fine. But those are not the days that I'm developing new things, a new understanding. So definitely like the rounds today, I pretty much every round, and I did like maybe 10 rounds. And I did the inside camping pretty much all of the rounds there. Straight away, I got past with like passing half guard. Then I just let them retain, and I come back. You know, I'm not even like I might go for a submission here and there, but in the end, I'm trying to focus on what I'm actually trying to learn.
Is there an acceptance there that sometimes there's a bit of boringness, banality, or whatever in training that can come with that? Like I have to just keep going back and revisiting these positions over and over again, relative to like having fun at your level with what
Man,
you're
I
trying
think
to
it's like
achieve.
no, but like I enjoyed that. I enjoyed that process. That's the thing, right?
Some people don't. I
One, it's
which
hilarious.
yeah.
That might be. But like
I know, but
I sincerely like imagine you pass the same pass. You do the same pass 5 times in a round. How do you think the other guy feels? Like it feels amazing to be on the other side of that.
yeah, I was just wondering because like something I noticed after Worlds was Shea Montague also won, and Darryl
Oh.
Connell put out a message after talking about Shea and said like there's a combination of factors that go into making someone who's able to reach that level in jiu-jitsu, and I just wonder if it's that ability of like something you're doing in training some people could perceive to be not boring, but like doing the same thing over and over again would be like, "Ah, I don't really want to be doing that. I want to be doing other stuff." But I just wonder like whether there's like an acceptance as an elite competitor, like you have to be doing things like this in order to make those like tiny incremental bits of progress, and you're happy to go through that process.
Definitely. I think you have to stick with something long enough to see what it's about and understand the idea around it. Like, of course, in the beginning when you start training jiu-jitsu, maybe hyper focusing on one topic isn't necessarily the greatest idea because you're better off just having a broad sketch of what this is all about. But as you get into the higher level, having that hyper focus on certain topics, areas, maybe weaknesses that you saw that you were missing in the last competition, um, I think that that's a big part of your development.
How much of that comes from you? How much of it comes from a coach saying, Tarik, I think you should look at this? How much of it comes from teammates or maybe like peers on a similar level saying, take a look at that? What's the balance there?
Uh, I think right now, well, the last probably 8 years, I think I've been more involved in my own training and focus, pretty much. Maybe as a blue belt, like the early days, my coaches would say, okay, enough of this sweep. I've seen you done this sweep 50,000 times. Please put it away and focus on something else. And I guess that kind of helped me down in the right direction because, it starts there, but in the end. It's kind of like a mindset that you bring with you as you go up into the ranks, right? And then you realize, okay, is there any point in just like doing the same thing the whole time? And then when you come to a competition, you try to do that sweep, it doesn't work, but then you haven't really trained on anything else. So you're kind of stagnating there. And yeah, I think yeah, being able to develop other areas of your game is very important. And I see this everywhere. Like I see a lot of well, you see purple belts maybe coming up. They've been on like top heavy, passing everything. They're really good at what they're doing, but eventually they come up to a point where okay, they meet someone else who's a little bit heavier or better at taking them down or something. And then ah shit, now I have to play guard. But then you haven't really developed your guard, so it feels horrible. And then like yeah, you're lacking a very big piece of the puzzle. And that's where you have to force yourself into these other positions, into learning somewhat the broad picture of jiu-jitsu.
How much of that has happened in the last couple of years for you? Because when I start to look at your competition journey, there was definitely like a period in time with you where like you started competing as a black belt, I think 2022, and then there was
Yeah.
quite a few events at IBJJF World level where you're hitting quarterfinals, and then come 2025 you win. So in terms of well, we can go back and talk about some of the developments you made from going colored belt to black belt and how you advanced there. I really want to focus on the difference between like being at a level where you're like, I can handle these guys, I can do well against these guys, but maybe there's a hurdle that I'm just not quite overcoming. And then how you get to that point where like you overcome the hurdles and you win. And like that can be from two perspectives. One, like the technical adjustments that you've made, but also like the mental stubbornness that has to have been there in order to keep persevering and get over that. Can we focus on that sort of like area
Uh,
for now?
yeah, yeah. I mean, so technical development, I think my brown belt days and my early black belt days, I was very, very locked in my game, like the belly down foot lock. I was very locked into the Tarikoplata. I I had other techniques, but I wasn't confident in using them. And uh, yeah, certain sides of my game was severely underdeveloped. So I believe like the biggest difference you see from early black belt days to my game now is that I'm way more well-rounded when it comes to my game. You'll see me on top, you see me on bottom, you see me connecting these different positions from top or bottom, and I guess kind of like more fluid and more able to follow through different things. Because once you kind of you're all over the place, you start like, okay, but if I sweep them like this, I can go straight into this pass. Or if I pass them like this, I can go straight into this back take. And so you connect the dots a lot more. And I think, yeah, that creates a more fluid game where you're less hesitant, your timing is better, you follow through a lot better. So that's probably the biggest like technical aspect that I feel like development wise. But uh
And
my
the
tactical
motivation
game
to
has been
do that.
gotten a lot better. The
Yeah, sorry.
motivation,
Yeah, so like your tactics, I didn't mean to interrupt there, and you can come back to that. But the motivation as well would be not being satisfied with maybe being in the last eight, maybe getting to a semi-final, maybe getting a. Did you always have? Was the driver like I want to win IBJJF Worlds Gold at Gi or No Gi, or is there other motivating factors at play there to like keep going, keep developing?
I mean, this has definitely been a journey of self exploration to some degree, right? I think as a young competitor, I was very hungry to compete and to win and to, win for my own myself. And there were multiple reasons why I wanted to win. It was to prove that I can do it. It was to, maybe get some fame out of it. So maybe a little bit of a confirmation. There's lots of factors there, right? But as you as you get older and life changes, I got a daughter. My life is more stable around me. You could say I'm more satisfied with my life situation. Then maybe you don't have that same hunger in the same way anymore, and you have to dig in yourself, like, to find some different way of channeling this same energy and this same motivation. And to be honest, like, one of the greatest things there was Tommy. Tommy is one of the guys who can hype me up, and in a way, maybe he brings back some old trauma from our rivalry back in the day. But that kind of brings me into the mode where I guess you could call it a little bit selfish, because in the end of the day, you're trying to beat people to win yourself. But that's what it takes, and I think being able to get into that mode is quite important, and definitely it's something that I've had to work on as an athlete, trying to find the right headspace or mindset coming into a fight.
I guess it's all individual, all relative. So the lesson there is maybe that you have to find it within yourself. Like there's no one answer that's going to work for everyone there. But it looks like you've been able to find it to keep developing to then push through across that black belt journey from like starting to compete in 2022 and kind of having I count a few quarterfinals at Worlds that Tommy was one of the roadblocks. I think he won twice there. There was a match against Ty Rutolo, Fabio Christian. So, but like eventually, come 2025, you're over that line and into the final, and then you have the title. I thought it was interesting what Tommy said after as well, where like he said there, between you two, there's two different approaches. Like he said he was quite like individualistic and obsessive about winning a world, and relative to like you've been able to do it while, like you mentioned, you have a family and other things in life going on, and it seemed like there was two like different approaches there. Is that like a fair
You
observation?
could say, no, for sure. We are different people. We are like, we have different priorities and we have different lifestyles, but like, in the end, me and Tommy we're on the same path. We have the same journey, the same goal. We came up pretty much through the same competitions, and the same similarities there. So you cannot help but acknowledge someone else who does the same work that you do, and you understand what it takes. Um, and that's, in the end, there's no right or wrong or one way to get to the goal. It's more like how you use your own situation and the resources you have, and how does it fuel you to or motivate you to keep going and to do what you need to do in order to reach your goal. Um, and well, I think definitely, like, it changes over time, and it will change over time for me. It will change over time for Tommy, and that's that's natural. That's how it is. What it is to be an athlete, at least over longer time. You're gonna have to find new sources of motivation. You're gonna have to find different ways to do the sport that you did. So maybe you were super, super dynamic at first, but then slowly you will gradually go to half guard at some point.
Yeah, in addition to your motivational work that's got you over some hurdles that existed, you said there's been some tactical developments. And I wonder if that can only happen over time at that elite black belt level, like realizing these things in matches that happen and adjustments you have to make to get over them, a lot of trial and error. I assume for some athletes, like they don't have to overcome that. Like there's going to be a few like superstars who just have a more seamless path. But what do you think for you where the big differences in that area?
Well, you could say like if you look at a lot of my quarterfinals that I lost, some of them were very close matches, and it would be, let's say, 2 points or an advantage that would decide whether or not I win, or even a ref decision. And so, having that experience, I know that, okay, coming in, I need to start looking for the first points. I need to start having the score up on my side because I know the desperation it is to be on the underside. And I know that as you get desperate with time, you will open up your game, you'll make mistakes, and that's what I felt I could really, really punish this time around when I was competing. So one of the matches, which I feel is a great example of that, is my match with Nathan Schweng, where I come up for like advantage in double guard pull setting, and not much is happening, and he's trying to constantly pummel and attack my legs and things. I'm kind of getting close to almost getting an angle to pass a little bit here and there, but he's not opening up his shell too much. You know, he's pretty good. He's pretty defensive there, and he keeps me away when he needs to. But as we gradually come towards the end, he gets more and more desperate because there's one advantage away, and he know that he's losing. And I start to capitalize on it. I start to get closer. I start to come even into like better positions, and in the end, I pass him as he's trying to come up and wrestle up, or yeah, shooting for like a takedown. And I feel like that is a very important lesson to learn when competing. That having the score on your side creates a very, very huge pressure on the other person, and it creates a whole tempo shift on the match. And so it's something that I have, maybe underestimated to some degree earlier on in my career. Like maybe I got away with submitting people a lot more, and so then I didn't have to consider it that much. But now I know in black belt division, I'm not going to be able to submit everybody as much as I would like to. People are not going to tap to things. People are going to let their feet break if they need to. And so, yeah, it becomes a very important piece of the puzzle. And I also think with that comes like the tactic of exhaustion, like knowing that I'm not using more energy than my opponent, like, okay, we're moving around, he's doing this, but okay, I'm flowing here. I'm surfing on top of him. These type of things go a little bit hand to hand with what I just said, and having the points on your side and being able to positionally outwork your opponent and not get as exhausted as they are, kind of creates the same pressure in the end.
How do you train to get that early advantage? Do you spend a lot of time working on strategies for like first 30 seconds, first minute, etc., trying to get the match in your side, or is it stuff that like you work on when you're competing at Opens in Europe, or what's the process there?
Something I really like is like fighting for the first score. Just like and it could be like you're in 2 rounds and then you're out, and then you're in 2 rounds and then you're out, sort of thing, right? But um you go in and you have to score points against your friend or your training partner, and then whether or not you win or lose, that round is over, and then you stay for another one. So then another person comes in, and then it's the first one to score then, and then he sits in, and you can keep going forever. But I think rounds like this really, really gets you into the mindset of understanding, okay, how to score points fast, how to score points fast if you're on top, how to score points fast if you're on bottom. Like how do I make things happen? And that's the only way the round ends. So it's kind of very, well, intentional as well, but it will make more sense for you as you do rounds like this. And I think tools like that help a lot. Um, yeah, pretty
Is
much.
there trial and error gone into those discoveries? Like what makes you settle on like, yeah, this is what I need to train on. This is what I need to train now. And like what are maybe some of the other tools you use, or what are some that you've cast away that you think actually like the time I put into that relative to how better I get is not worth it for what I'm trying to achieve in competition?
I think, like because there comes a point where am I trying to score points or am I trying to submit the person, right? Like very great example, you get into single leg X, and then single leg X can be a super great position to sweep somebody, or it can be a great position to go for a footlock. Originally, 10 out of 10 times you would see me go for a footlock, right? I didn't really go for any footlocks in this competition. If I got close to a single leg X, it was mostly to try to score some points out of it. And I think rounds like that where you're not really looking for the subs, of course, if the subs present themselves, you gotta take it. But when you're looking for the points, usually then the subs start to open up as well because your opponents will defend the points, and when they defend the points, they give you something else. And so I think they go hand to hand with each other. But if you're too focused on one, then likely you're not seeing the whole picture and you're not really, performing as well as you can.
Yeah. So we can focus on like first score wins for short periods of time. Longer rounds, like people will do, 10-minute rounds to replicate matches. Any other little tips you can have for like how you use your rounds, use your time that have made a difference to you, or is it just like within that context and then you know being aware of what you're doing, studying what you're doing, keeping it in the context of like what you're trying to achieve in competition?
I think study like obviously in training is one thing, rounds and all of that, and being aware of the point system and all of that. But also like watching competitions, studying matches, seeing how points are being scored during those matches. It will give you a lot of experience and a lot of like understanding as of okay, here he scored points, here he got an advantage. Okay, so that's how far I need to take it for me to get that or to. And if you watch a couple of matches, you start to understand like, okay, I especially think like over time the rules kind of changed as well, and as we get introduced to new position, put new positions, and all of these reaping rules and all of this, then it becomes even more important that you need to watch the matches. Okay, how did he get DQ'd? Why did Tainan get DQ'd versus Francisco Lo? Okay, it was like the underhook de la Riva. Yeah, but was it because he was connecting his hands? Ah, okay, I see. Like that's just a very typical one, but those details are important to take with you, and I guess it would prevent you from getting disqualified if that was something you thought you would do.
Yeah, I think like there needs to be something in your situation that does that. So whether it's you studying it yourself because you are the one competing, whether it's a coach who like keeps feeding this information to you, whether it's a teammate who's like obsessive about jiu-jitsu more than you are. I think there needs to be someone. Maybe it's yourself, maybe it's a coach that helps you if you're not that way inclined. Maybe it's a teammate that helps you if you're not that way inclined. But I agree. I think there needs to be something there where you are studying.
Yeah,
There's a
I
form of
you
study.
you can have a coach that does it, which is great, but in the end of the day, you will have to take charge of your own, education or because they can only feed you as much as they're with you at times, but you have to be interested to want to learn how to compete. And in the end, it's fun to watch matches. I liked watching Polaris. I like watching IBJJF tournaments. I mean, I don't watch all of the matches, and certain matches I will skip through if there's not much happening. That's fair, but it's definitely something that's gonna help you get better.
Okay. Uh, two more things on competition, if I may, Tarik, while I've got you.
No worries.
One would be when you started, you had a lot of success in the colored belts, particularly in the European scene. And then you make this shift to trying to win worlds at the black belt level, which is sort of like the ultimate goal in jiu-jitsu. So what what was what was the motivator to do that, to not rest on your laurels, just going, well, like I'm one of the best guys in Europe at blue, at purple, at brown. Um, I want to be black belt world champ at one form of this sport, gi or no gi. Like, and because you see people who don't have that, who are happy where they are. So I wonder what it is that made you think, no, I want to go to like the ultimate.
I mean, why not, right? It's like
That
you
could be
start
the
off,
reason.
you start off with a local tournament, and then you win that, and that was fun. That was cool, but it's a local tournament in Norway. Then you go to Europeans. Okay, this is something bigger. This is well, technically everybody from the world can compete there, but it's still like it's something bigger, and it feels like a bigger achievement. Obviously, also the brackets are harder, more people are there, and the level is higher. And so once you achieve that, what's the next thing? You know, you look around, worlds. And I mean, the prestige of IBJJF Black Belt Worlds has always been quite high, especially the gi. The gi has always been the one that's very prestigious, and it's that for a reason. The level is insanely high, and I can only like think about when I was coming through the ranks and I was watching like the black belts compete, and it was Hafa, it was Cobrinha, you know, all these big names competing, and the level was always so high, high, high there. And we were like always thinking like, okay, what's the next thing that they're gonna come with, and what's their game plan? You know, how are they handling that loss from the last time, and how are they able to now come up with a new strategy going into this same final that we saw last year? You know, and it's such a high level and at the top there that I feel like it's inspirational, it's motivating. I want to get to that point. I want to be one of those people one day. Because it just seems like a super cool thing.
No, it is, and I wonder as well, when I look at jiu-jitsu, sort of the guys that win seem to be the guys that win. You know, when generally you look at brackets, the kind of guys you expect to be in the final, the kind of are the guys that are in the final, you know? Sometimes there's the odd shock, but I think there's less shocks in jiu-jitsu than in a lot of other sport that I watch. And I wonder now whether, like, thinking about what's next for you, how much that recent achievement of winning a black belt world final, you're like, yeah, I can do that. I'm one of those guys now that when the bracket's there, like people will expect to see my name possibly in that last two. Is that what you're looking to do? Go and do more of that, or what are some of the ambitions now that like you've reached this point, which was a new point for you in your career?
I think there's a lot more to do, for me at least. So I definitely love competing in the gi as well. So I will be competing in the gi in Lisbon in January. So that's what's next for me. And I I would love to have that title as well. I would love to have the European one and the Worlds in the gi. That would just like, yeah, I guess complete my career in a sense. But as well as that, there's the ADCC trials in February, and then there's the Worlds later, the 2026. And I guess I've always been a very like complete, like I like gi, I like no gi. I do both most of the time. You could say that in no gi my achievements are way greater, and I haven't had that many severe losses in no gi as I've had in the gi. But I feel like in the gi I've, who are the people I'm losing to? Mika Galao, Tainan Daltra. I can't really complain about, you know, the level is just high. That's what it is. And when you're fighting these people, it's always the small margins, and these guys they're tough. They're tough as nails.
Yeah. Sometimes there is that the relativity of the competition scene while you're in it. I think of like tennis. Andy Murray, a Scottish tennis player, did really, really well to win a couple of major titles in his career, but he also existed at the same time as Novak Djokovic, Roger Federer, Rafael Nadal. So even just like winning one or two, getting to a lot of semi-finals, quarterfinals, and stuff like that, huge achievements there, you know? So I
No.
just wonder, like you've mentioned ADCC a couple of times. I just to finish off, like there's the other side of it as well. And I think about your last ADCC Euro Trials run, which was ended by a cut on the chin, right?
Yeah.
And like you can maybe talk about that situation, but like also the dealing with like the frustration and the kind of heartbreak of that, like being so close, and then something like that's what stops it, you know. But then you've got back on the horse and you've gone again, you know.
I think like certain things are outside of your control as an athlete, and it's frustrating, super, super frustrating, and I was really sad about that. But at the same time, I have a very logical way of handling situations like that. It's like I will fight to get my, to come back onto the mat. I'll argue, I'll do all those things, but if there is no other way but to let it go, I will let it go, and I will just come back stronger for another time. I don't think it will help you out being too obsessed with that situation, and it's not gonna get any better. And I know, like, I was fighting Pavel there in the quarterfinals, and he's a great athlete. Like, obviously, he deserves that win. It was just not the right way it should have happened, right? And he didn't feel good about it either. He came over. He was like, "Hey, sorry about that. It shouldn't have been that way." And it's all fair in the end between us athletes. The only thing I really thought was crap was kind of the first med lady, or the first aid lady that was treating my cut. She was like super negative. She didn't even try to band-aid it, and she didn't like. She was just straight away super negative, just like, "Nope, you're not competing. You're not doing anything." And then I was just like, yeah, furious for a second.
Yeah, well, in ADCC, you expect to see like the big rapping around, you know, and guys go again. So, but I just, you know, I think there's a few things we've touched on in this chat, and I think that is one of the thing, how you deal with that situation, how you've dealt with other situations that like I think people can learn a lot from, which is like one of the reasons I wanted to chat to you, because when I looked at your career, there's been like these moments and you've managed to overcome and keep going, and then like you've now got an achievement that you were striving for. And it was just interesting to find out like how you did that, and I thought it would be quite inspirational for people to hear it. So, and like that ADCC thing came into that category, I think.
No, for sure. And like, I'm sitting here saying like it sounds maybe easy, overcoming these challenges and all of that, but honestly, there's been tons of situations I've been doubting myself, and I've been thinking like, should I be competing? Should I just give up? Should I start up my gym now and just coach full time? Is this it? And all these thoughts, they race through your head, especially after losses like this, or things happening that you just feel like, okay, all that time sort of went to waste, right? And then the reality is these lessons or these situations, they're all building blocks. Eventually, what seems like a lot of failures is only, building eventual to to what can be possibly as a gold medal. And I feel like, at least in my case, this was what happened.
Yeah, and yeah, maybe it's a little bit cliche, but like that is life, you know, and maybe it doesn't end in the gold medal for other people, but like I suppose like the idea would be keep trying, because you never know like where the story is going to go and where it will peak, you know, and maybe if you'd have maybe, or maybe this isn't the peak. Maybe the peak's higher. Maybe we're still going up Everest, as it were. But maybe if you'd have decided to open a school and all that, that would have been a good decision. And you might have like a thriving school right now with like loads of members and stuff like that. But like you decided to keep going down this path, and it was there for you. So I just think like, you not only like that desire, that stubbornness to keep chipping away, but I think like within your explanations, we can see a sort of like a smartness, a mental processing, like an identification of the things you could do to change, a willingness to let go of things that didn't go your way, but then an ability to tweak what you realized was tweakable along the way as well. I think just like, I don't think that information is necessarily easy to come by within jiu-jitsu, because like you said, like a lot of us in Europe were kind of like disconnected, and a lot of elite athletes are kind of, in separate places. And there might be guys coming through at blue and purple, like they don't have access to guys like you who've done it and have these lessons to share. So that was like part of the reason why I thought it would be really interesting to chat to you, given like your story in jiu-jitsu, So is there anything else you would want to share that you think like other students, other athletes, people who are interested in like, competing, even not at like the level you've got to, but just like something that can like help them? Or do you think we've covered it?
I mean, well, I guess we've covered like pieces of it at least, and at least the parts where I feel were very important to me developing the past 3-4 years at least. But of course, if you're coming into competition for the first time, or you've been competing a little bit, there's other challenges that will come your way. And I think in the end, like, give yourself some slack, and also like if this is your first competition, maybe not force yourself down to cutting weight and all of that. It's just gonna take away the fun out of it, and also you're gonna be more focused on managing your weight rather than actually competing. And so I believe, like, you know, it's like bowling. You want to be bowling with the fences first, and then eventually you bring the gutters in, and like, you introduce more and more and more. And yeah, think of the same way through jiu-jitsu, whether it's training or whether it's competing. Try to, not make it too complicated in the beginning, and then as you gradually get more experienced, you'll start to see the other aspects of it as well.
Yeah, I think that's like just maybe an understanding of where you are and in the grand scheme of things, whether it's like, okay, I'm competing at white belt, I don't have to have all these extra pressures and stuff like that, all the way through to you, I'm competing at black belt, and I actually think a world title is within me. Like, what do I have to do to get there? It's like they're both realistic scenarios. They're just at like either end of the spectrum, and realizing where you are and what you have to do, I think, is important. So hopefully this chat helps with people along that way. Tarik, it's
Yeah,
been an absolute pleasure. Like, especially with
thank you
the,
so
like you
much.
said, the hectic window that you're currently in, uh, post your success. So
Yeah. Ah, man, couldn't say no to this.
I appreciate it. Okay, anything else you want to finish up on before I hit the stop button?
I'm done. I don't have more.
Okay, guys, if you want Tarik to come to a seminar at your gym, give him a message, or give Maggie, his manager, a message online. Check out, like, you're still, are you still putting out information anywhere else, instructionals, etc.?
There should be instructional with submeta coming out soon, and yeah, I'm making stuff on YouTube, Instagram. I'm not active on TikTok, unfortunately, but I do have an account there. And so yeah, anywhere.
There's a huge vault of information on Tarik's YouTube page that I have been in for a while, so definitely check that out if you've not seen it. But Tarik, thanks a lot for that. Hope to see you compete again soon, and all the best
you.
for the ADCC trials.